Sometimes, one email feels like it erases years of work. The inbox glows against the dark. Midnight has already slipped past, but I'm still sitting here, laptop open, eyes fixed on the screen, like the words might change if I stare long enough. The subject line is polite, professional, and sterile regarding your proposal. The body is even colder. Sorry, we chose another offer. The ping that announced its arrival still echoes in my mind, sharp and final, like a gavel striking wood. My shoulders slump under the weight of it. My stomach sinks as if gravity just doubled. The office is silent except for the faint hum of the laptop fan. The deal was one I counted on, not just for money, but for validation, for proof that I was enough, that the years I've poured into this business meant something. But now, with one email, that scaffolding collapses. I lean back in my chair, the leather creaking under the shift of weight. The room feels darker than it did a minute ago, shadows pooling in corners, stretching across the desk where untouched coffee has gone cold. And I feel it. Deflation, as though someone punctured the air inside me. Worthlessness creeping in like a draft under the door. The voice inside whispers its verdict. You weren't good enough. I close my eyes, but the words don't fade. They hang in the air like smoke, bitter and thick. The rejection isn't just a business outcome, it's personal. It feels like erasure, like years of effort have been reduced to a single no. What makes it worse is the silence after. The email doesn't invite dialogue. It doesn't explain. It just lands, delivers its verdict, and leaves. The whole night feels marked by that silence, a silence that hums louder than any noise. I glance around the office. Folders stacked high, sticky notes pinned with urgency, the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. All these reminders of effort, of movement, of work, and yet the rejection makes them feel invisible. It's as if the email has rewritten the story of my work in a single stroke, all those hours now distilled into failure. The shame cuts deeper because I know I'll carry this into tomorrow, into the way I shake hands, the way I speak, the way I carry myself. One no becomes more than a decision. It becomes a shadow that follows me until I decide otherwise. But tonight, I haven't decided otherwise yet. Tonight, I'm still here, in the glow of the screen, waiting for a yes that won't come. And for a moment, I believe the rejection speaks louder than my worth. Sometimes I feel like every no is a verdict on me as a person. That's the trap. The way rejection doesn't just touch the work, it seeps into identity. And I know the roots. Perfectionism whispers that anything less than yes is proof of weakness, that unless I succeed every time, I don't deserve to be here at all. The critic in my head doesn't just tally wins and losses, it judges my worth on them. Financial reliance twists rejection deeper. Every deal feels like survival. A no isn't just loss of business. It feels like a threat to stability, to security. I find myself replaying numbers in my head, calculating what this loss means for next month, for the staff I pay, for my own family. And that pressure turns one email into a storm. And layered on top of it all is cultural weight, the unspoken belief that reputation is everything, that to be rejected isn't just losing an opportunity, it's losing face. And once face is lost, it feels almost impossible to regain. Rejection, in this frame, isn't a private moment. It's a public mark. So each rejection carries more than disappointment. It carries shame. I scroll back through my inbox, and the silence between emails feels louder than the pings themselves. The gaps remind me of every unanswered pitch, every door that closed without explanation. It becomes easy to stitch them together into a narrative. People only see my failures. I picture colleagues forwarding the email, shaking their heads, using my name as an example of what not to do. Even if they never did, my mind imagines it clearly enough to believe it. And in that narrative, rejection stops being an event. It becomes a verdict. I ask myself the mirror questions I've been avoiding. Do you take every rejection as proof you're not enough? More often than I'd like to admit. Each no feels less like a declined offer and more like a denied identity. Do you fear others only seeing your failures? Yes. Especially in the quiet moments when the critic inside my chest nods in agreement. The universal theme is clear: fear of rejection. Not just the sting of one email, but the weight of believing every no defines me, shrinks me, reduces me. And yet, a different wisdom lingers, quiet but insistent. Rejection isn't the end, it's redirection. But on nights like this, the email doesn't feel like redirection. It feels like exile. It feels like the sound of the inbox ping is proof I've been cast out. The symbolic cue sits heavy. That ping, echoing into silence, louder than any applause, sharper than any compliment. A single sound that carries judgment. And I sit here, caught between knowing the wisdom and living it. Between the truth that rejection could refine me and the lie that had already erased me. Some nights, that gap feels too wide to cross. The rejection that broke me wasn't just any rejection. It was the one I had built my month around. A major deal, the kind that changes forecasts, eases pressure, keeps the lights on with certainty. I had invested hours, sleepless nights, and endless strategy into it. I had pictured the handshake, the signatures, the relief. But instead, I got another email. Another ping. We regret informing you. The words blurred as I read them, but the meaning was sharp. Another door closed. Another no carved into the ledger. My breath caught in my chest. The thought loop was immediate, merciless. I'll never recover. I'm not enough. This proves it. This proves they were right to doubt me. The inbox filled with ghosts. Not just this rejection, but every rejection that had come before. Unanswered proposals, declined bids, lost clients. Each subject line replayed in my mind, stacking like bricks in a wall I couldn't climb. The overwhelming symbol was right there, in front of me. An inbox that looked more like a graveyard of no's than a tool for connection. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but there was nothing left to type. No rebuttal to send. No words that could undo the verdict. And then came the collapse gesture. I slammed the laptop shut, hard. The sound cracked against the silence of the room, sharp and final, as if closing the computer might close the shame inside it. But shame doesn't live in hardware. It lives here, in the chest, in the gut, in the mind. and it stayed. I dropped my head into my hands, elbows pressed into the desk. My body curled forward, folding in on itself, as if the smaller I made myself, the less I'd feel. But the critic found me anyway. You're not worthy of success. You'll never be enough. This proves it. The emotional low came rushing in, not just defeat, but unworthiness. I wasn't mourning a lost deal anymore. I was mourning the idea that I could succeed at all. In that moment, the inbox became more than a tool. It became a mirror reflecting everything I feared: failure, rejection, inadequacy. And I believed it. But then, in the heaviness, another thought surfaced. Every rejection redirects me closer to the right door. At first, I wanted to dismiss it. It felt like something you read on a poster, not something you live in the midnight hours of loss. But the words lingered, circling back, asking me to remember. So I did. I thought back to deals I had lost years ago, rejections that had gutted me at the time. One in particular. I had counted on it so much that when the no came, I thought I'd never recover. But months later, that loss pushed me toward another opportunity I hadn't seen. A better one. A door I wouldn't have even knocked on if the first had stayed open. I thought of another rejection, a client who chose someone else. At the time, I spiraled, convinced it meant I wasn't credible. But months later, I realized that deal would have trapped me in endless obligations, draining me dry. Losing it saved me from a future I wasn't built to carry. One by one, I began to see the thread. Every no had been brutal in the moment, but each one redirected me, even if I couldn't see it then. The inbox still looked like a graveyard, but buried in it were seeds too. Seeds of paths I hadn't expected, but paths that had grown me. The symbolic moment arrived as I reopened the laptop, not to stare at the no, but to scroll back, past years of emails. My eyes caught the patterns, deals that ended in rejection, followed by deals that built my business stronger. Doors closed, then better doors opened. I sat back, exhaling slowly. The reframed insight landed. A no isn't proof of failure. It's proof the right yes is still waiting. The mantra came naturally. Redirect, refocus, rise. I whispered it first, testing the weight of the words. Redirect. I felt the sting of the no, but also the shift it demanded. A turn, a change of path. Refocus. The word steadied me. I could set my eyes back on what remained, not just on what was lost. Rise. This one, I said louder, enough that it echoed off the walls. Rise, because rejection didn't end me. It invited me forward. Each cycle of the mantra grew stronger. Whisper, steady, bold. And as I repeated it, I noticed something new. The inbox no longer looked like a graveyard. It looked like a map, arrows pointing away from paths that weren't mine, toward paths that still could be. I shifted in my chair, shoulders easing down, spine lengthening. For the first time that night, I felt the laptop wasn't an enemy. It was a record. Of pain, yes, but also of persistence. Rejection doesn't define me. It refines me. I looked up then and caught the window. Dawn light was bleeding in, faint but steady. The glow reminded me that the night hadn't won, that tomorrow was waiting. And in that dawn, I knew every no I've faced has been a step, not a stop. Rejection doesn't define me, it refines me. That's the truth I wanted to hold on to. But truth isn't strong enough on its own unless I live it, unless I root it in practice. So I created a ritual, a way to take the sting of rejection and transform it into redirection, not in theory, but in action. The ritual is simple, but its weight is real. The anchor action is a list. Not just any list, a list of rejections that once crushed me, but later proved to redirect me towards something better. At first, I resisted. Who wants to sit down and write out their failures? But as I pressed pen to paper, something shifted. I wrote, Client A said no, but that pushed me to find Client B, who turned out to be the partnership that changed my year. I wrote, that investor walked away, but without that tie, I found the flexibility to pivot into something stronger. Line after line, I found evidence, not imagined, not sugar-coated, real examples of no, leading me closer to a better yes. And with each entry, the sharpness of rejection dulled, replaced by something else, gratitude. Strange at first, but undeniable. Gratitude for the no's that rerouted me. Gratitude for the rejections that became protection. When the list was done, I sat with it in my lap. I read it back slowly, and with every memory, I felt the mantra solidify. Rejection redirects me. That's the affirmation I return to. Short, grounded, steady. The grounding symbol is physical, my hand pressing the close button on the inbox. That small gesture reminds me that rejection doesn't get to stay open on my screen, glowing like a wound. I can close it. I can contain it. I can move on. Sometimes, after closing the inbox, I place my palm flat against the desk and breathe. I remind myself, this desk isn't an altar to failure. It's a place of work, of creation, of persistence, and rejection is only one part of that story. The reassurance is simple but profound. Every no is a step toward the right yes. When I believe that, rejection stops being a verdict and becomes momentum. It doesn't pin me down. It points me forward. This ritual doesn't erase the sting of rejection, but it changes the way I carry it. Instead of shame, I carry evidence. Instead of a wound, I carry wisdom. Even in this small act, I feel the weight shifting. Every no I face points me toward a stronger yes. That's how I will close tonight. That's the anchor I leave with. At work, it means I no longer let a single email rewrite the story of my worth. Deals come and go, but my identity isn't tied to acceptance or rejection. It's tied to persistence, to direction, to resilience. At home, it means rejection doesn't steal presence anymore. I can sit at the table with my family without dragging in the echo of no. I can listen, laugh, breathe, because rejection doesn't own me. In myself, it means the critic's verdict is no longer final. The voice that once said, "You're not enough," now gets answered by the truth. This no isn't the end, it's redirection. The one-line mantra that holds me steady is this: no leads to next. The closing symbol I carry in my mind is the inbox closed, screen dark, Morning light streaming steady through the window. A picture of endings that aren't endings at all, just transitions. For tonight, I'll hold this truth. Rejection refines me. And I wonder, what's one rejection that eventually led you to a better path? Every no I face points me toward a stronger yes.